Hello everybody, welcome to another video. My name is Infiniti and today I am going to be discussing the beloved Red Heart Super Saver and the Sentro knitting machine. So, I'm going to give a little backstory to this yarn and this machine. When I got my first Sentro way back in 2019, most of my stash was comprised of this. And I was so excited to start stash busting, but as I've said before, when I first got the machine, I had no help. So it was a lot of discovery, and in that discovery, I found that this yarn was largely incompatible with this machine. And I think I've even made that statement on my blog post about yarns that work with the Sentro knitting machine. However, there have been other instances where I've attempted to use this machine, and this yarn together, whether it be waste yarn or some other kind of mini side project that I was experimenting with, right? So first of all, there's a science to this, okay? Red Heart Super Saver is a great beginner yarn for most crafts, like for knitting and crocheting. I will say that some colors have different consistencies. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I have noticed in the 10 plus years I've been crocheting and knitting that like the black and the red and a couple of the greens are a little on the spongier, thicker side. And a lot of times I found that my machine would reject this yarn. However, recently I have been doing a number of things behind the scenes, and I have found some success with this Super Saver. So what is Super Saver? It is a 100% acrylic yarn. You typically get like 384, 364 yards in a skein. And, you know, everybody knows it and loves it. So, and it's very accessible, which you guys know that already. So, what I've also found recently is that, well, obviously tension matters. So I'm just going to drop this in the machine and I'm going to cast on like I normally would, going back and forth. Now, I think my main problem with this yarn, or these yarns, was the fact that I'd always enjoyed a tighter tension, and so I was trying to replicate my own tension with the machine, and I think in that capacity the machine rejected this yarn, and I'm going to tell you why. I also want to preface this video by saying it is not a tutorial. If you are looking for Sentro knitting machine tutorials, I have a huge playlist back on my channel which you can find by heading over there, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on the future Sentro content. Alright, this guy, the tension guide, right? Typically, I would put this yarn here in the center, and that was ideal for the thickness of this yarn. I thought that it would be the appropriate gauge, but I was wrong. Recently, as I've made up videos and such with this yarn, I found that as long as I was using yarns of this consistency in this third hole, the largest hole on the tension guide, I found that that overwhelmingly led to success. So I've even used Joann's Big Twist in these machines, and I've had no problem with it. I've used another yarn from Michael's in this machine that previously I said is a no-go, and it worked out just great. So I'm going to just go about cranking these rows like I normally would. Like the instructions say, the first 3 or 4 rows you want to crank it slow. Make sure you're not dropping anything. Definitely within those first 5 to 10 rows, you'll know if the yarn does not like your machine. Oh, now see, today it wants to prove me a liar, but when I just did that last tutorial on drop stitches, this problem right here, it worked out just fine. I had many rows of this. So I think that I had something tucked in here. Yep, something tucked in here. So I'm going to go about fixing that. Alright, so I got that all patched up there. And as you guys can see, I have no dropped or tucked stitches. So here's my theory on Red Heart Super Saver. Like I said, there are some colors that are thicker for whatever reason. I suppose it's the way that the dye takes to it. Maybe that's why they changed the consistency a little bit. It's barely noticeable if you're doing other crafts, but when it comes to these knitting machines, they can be kind of sensitive to those slight differences. And so I feel like most colors should work with this machine, as long as you are taking advantage of the tension. Can I zoom out? As long as you're taking advantage of this very light tension, and if you're feeling extra uneasy about it, you could just opt out of using that tension guide at all and just lightly let it run through your hands like this. Just make sure all of your needles are catching the yarn so you don't end up having to frog it or fix things later on. So yeah, there's my piece on this yarn in this machine. I've seen so many people have success with Red Heart Super Saver and the Sentro knitting machine, and just up until recently I had not, so that's why I never really recommended it for anything other than waste yarn. But now I have a whole bunch of other possibilities with this particular fiber and this machine, so I look forward to exploring that in future shop updates. I hope today's video was helpful for you guys. If so, don't forget to leave it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. That lets YouTube know that my content is worthy. You can check me out on other social media. I'm also on Instagram, and that's where I'm most active. Check out my blog site. Sign up for my newsletter so you don't miss out on future like maker notes and things like that. You can also support the content by dropping a super thanks or buying me a coffee or checking out my merch shop that I just relaunched in January. Super excited about that content. Anyway, gonna quit rambling. Until next time, guys, happy making.